Oh my God, you guys, I'm so stressed out right now because of this move. Um, all right, I don't really want to talk about that. Well, I would love to talk about that, but I don't want to make you guys sit through that. All right, let's go through these questions here. And how's it going, guys? Hope you're having a good day. Thanks for joining me with this live stream. Hope you've been enjoying these live streams this week. And if you missed any of the previous ones, basically, I am moving to a new house or apartment actually, and I'm just kind of not in the mood to make tutorials, but I'm happy to sit down for an hour and have a conversation with you guys. So if there's anything you want to talk about or have a question, Reaper specific or home recording in general, then let's do it. And while we're waiting for questions to come in, let's thank the patrons and the YouTube members. These guys have been consistently helping me out with paying for the content, paying for my time, and making it possible to actually do this full time. So patrons, channel members, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is also the last day of the Back to Homeschool sale. So if you want my Mixing in Reaper volumes 1, 2, or 3, or my video tools course for just $15, you can use the code Stay Home, and yeah, it'd really help out with what I do. Okay, so hello everyone. Hello Mike. Hello Mage Prometheus. Mage has been here all 3 live streams so far. I think Chris Norris was here in all the streams so far. It's midnight in India. Well, thank you for watching this. I think that's inadvisable, but if you're up late normally, that's cool that you would have me as part of your nighttime routine. That's cool. Hi from Brazil. And I want to know how I can make trap house songs which sound like Boaz Van de Beats. To be honest, I don't know about that kind of style of music. I wish I could help you with that. There's probably someone that's done like sound alike style tutorials or how to sound like, and no matter what the DAW is, you can translate that to Reaper. Am I moving to another town? Yeah, so I'm moving from Burnaby to Nanaimo, and there is a ferry ride in between. So it's kind of a complicated thing. I don't drive myself, so that complicates things. Right now, we're just trying to figure out all the logistics of having my dad and uncle come over to help fill up the moving truck and get that moved over. There's if I go on as a walk on through public transit, it's like a 4-hour trip, and like I get a migraine every time. And it looks like we're gonna have to do that tomorrow, but the whole family, just because they want us to sign the lease in person, and then they want us to pay in checks, and it's like all this stress. Suddenly, I was feeling so good yesterday about this thing, thinking that I had like 30 days to do it, and then my dad was like, hey, we're gonna book the 14th off so we can do this. I'm like, oh well, now I only have 15 days to plan a move. So yeah, it's stressful, very stressful. I'm not sure the actual distance, but there's a huge waterway in between where I am and where I'm moving to. And then the other issue is like with COVID and everything. So it's like it's a long trip and wearing a mask the whole time and all that kind of stuff. Alternatives to serum. There's there's not really a good alternative to Serum. I got something. I had something that was similar, but I can't even recall the name of it right now. It was inexpensive, but it was kind of hard to learn. If you want Serum, I don't think there's really a good thing that's going to get you the same sort of sounds and features. I think a lot of people are using Splice to get access to that on a monthly basis. So that makes it a lot cheaper. Yeah, exactly. Watchwood says you can buy Serum on Splice, pay like $10 a month. Yeah, and that seems like a pretty fair deal. I'm not sure if you even like pay extra just to get it monthly like that. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like 10% more to pay per month, but it's rent to own. So yeah, once it's all paid off, then you have it. Eli says, I'm a new Reaper user. I'm pretty happy with this DAW and your tutorials. I will buy your Reaper mixing course. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. If you work on rock music, especially, I think that will help you. It's not so much for electronic music, but I'm sure that you can kind of get ideas for the general mixing workflow and everything like that. What about pigments from Arturia? I wasn't a fan of that. I heard that the first update they put out really improved it a lot, but I wasn't immediately liking pigments. So I don't know. I think the what's that style of synth? What's that type of synthesis called? In any event, it's not really the style of synth that I like. I tend to prefer sort of like vintage style subtractive synths, and that one was just so different from what I was used to hearing. Or yeah, wavetable. Thank you. Hey, we got pretty good latency today. It's it's only a couple seconds between asking a question and getting an answer. Thank you guys. Wavetable synths sound really weird to me, and I think they don't suit the sounds in my head, I think. So, yeah. Any thoughts on output latency? I have a project open with maybe one too many plugins and notice that there is no input latency, but hear it when monitoring the input. Yeah, so everything in the signal chain is going to be delaying your signal. The buffer size does determine that to some degree, but also like all the plugins, keeping everything in sync is going to, it has to do that by delaying everything. So if you have one track with no delay, but another track that is requiring like, I don't know, 1024 samples, that first track with nothing on it actually is the one that gets delayed so that it plays out in time with the one that requires 1024. So everything in the chain makes a difference, and especially master track, that will delay everything. Okay. Any thoughts on the program Handbrake for after rendering for increasing Reaper video audio latency and overall quality? I don't use it. There's some people that use it, and if they need a specific format, but YouTube has been taking my files just perfectly fine. On Windows, I export with the full FFmpeg encoder, which is required to get H.264, and on the Mac, the AV Foundation encoder, it's built in, and it does H.264 just fine. If you want like very specific or very small files, things like that, then you do need that. Or Handbrake would be useful. But yeah, in general, I haven't needed it in years. I'm going to try to figure out what that plugin was. or even where I got it. I have no idea what I would even search. I'm looking for wavetable synths. Sector. Sector is the one that I got. That seems to be very similar to Serum, but I just didn't like any of the sounds I was getting from it. And I didn't really like any of the sounds from Pigments either. They seem incredibly powerful and flexible, and you can do like anything with them, but I just wasn't getting something that I liked from them. Okay. When triggering samples, do you always edit to stay in time with the original track? When I use RS5K, some hits are earlier and some later. That's... You should check it after printing. Usually I'm okay with it being pretty close. But if you're blending it with another microphone, then it definitely makes a difference to match that up. But if you render it, or like if you render it that track, or you record to a new track, some method like that, it's very good to just do a quick by eye check to make sure that everything's triggering correctly and lined up. Tell us the name again. That was Sector. I'll put it up on the screen. Sector Hybrid Wavetable Synth plugin. So it's got different themes, and you can load your own wavetables. You can load samples in it. It's like, has everything. But, and it's always on sale. But yeah, I'm not unhappy with it, but it's not something I end up using all that often. If ever. I have to force myself to use it. But I mean, it looks cool. It looks pretty comparable to Serum. Steven says, just purchased the video course and the mixing bundle. Thank you so much, dude. So helpful for me. Looking forward to watching, learning, and implementing. Yeah, I'm really proud of that video course. It was a long time to come up with all the presets. And originally it was just going to be a preset pack, but then I needed to document it, and now it's like 16 videos. And all the time I think I find something I want to add to it, and like, nah, I better hold off until I got enough stuff. But yeah, it's been kind of a slow, it's been slow to get popular. I guess I should say, like when I first launched it, it did kind of so. And then around March or something, when everyone's like, got to do quarantine home videos, got to keep the band together. It's like that course just took off like crazy, which is great for me. Rodney asks, what video capture do you use on your live stream and what camera? So it's a Panasonic Lumix G7. I have a Sigma 19 millimeter. I don't recall the model. I think it's EXDN. It's kind of the older version at f2.8. It has pretty bad autofocus, both the camera and the lens. So you'll see like autofocus is on, it just doesn't want to work. There we go. And then, yeah, it's slow. So, that's not ideal. That's going from HDMI out into a Camlink 4K and then into the PC. And I'm using Streamlabs OBS for capturing and streaming. I used to record internally in the camera, plus ScreenFlow on the Mac or OBS on the PC. But it's all just much simpler now to have the camera switching and recording and stuff controlled by the Stream Deck, because it works really well with Streamlabs. One of the reasons I used a Streamlabs in the beginning was so that I could get the chat into the stream, but oops, wrong button. Let's see. I don't know if it's gonna work. No, it's not gonna work. Chats and alerts were supposed to be part of the stream, but I ended up not liking it. In the replays, it didn't actually look that good. I found it kind of distracting, and so I'll just have to be careful to like read out what people are saying in the chat, because it doesn't always end up in the replays. There's not always like the whole full chat available. Chris says, I prefer Wavetable for longer evolving sounds. Yeah, and I think it's just something I can't wrap my head around yet. I've got an old brain. I don't know. I like sort of like 80s sounding synths, retro wave stuff, and I don't think they use Wavetable all that much. To me, like Wavetable is more like futuristic, like dubstep and that sort of sound, and it just doesn't quite work for me. Robert says, is there a bug in the new version of Reaper where it doesn't properly zoom track height within folders? I can't find answers from Google. I might know what you're talking about, and I would call it a bug. Let's fix this. There we go. I don't think I would call it a bug. So let's put in a couple tracks here. I'll make the first track a folder like that. And then if I hit this button here, that's going to collapse them. And if I try resizing the track, only the non-collapsed track expands. And I can do that again and super collapse those, and they are not expanding. If I hit this a third time, it goes back to normal, and then all these tracks can be resized with the same command. So I think that's what's happening with your thing there, with your track heights. I think it's just the, what's it called? Compact folder state, something like that. Not sure if there's actual like proper name for that. Yeah, Robert, I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about there. Mike asks, is there a quick answer on how you would go about remote tracking a podcast into Reaper? For example, if we wanted to do voice only in 2 countries. Oh, why did I go to that camera? I would definitely have each person record themselves locally. Just have Reaper running on each computer, hit record, do your call so that you have like face-to-face communication over the internet, but you're not capturing that lossy audio. You're recording it losslessly. At the end of the call, you both hit stop. The person that's not doing the editing just emails the file, and you sync them up by one person saying hello, the other person responding, and you would shift things as needed, because there's naturally going to be pauses in the online communication thing. But you won't get any glitches, and this is what we figured out back in like 2007 when we started the first, like, I don't know, boom of podcasting was back then, and I burnt out on it before. Now it's so popular now, it's crazy. But yeah, it's a problem we solved so long ago, before like Skype and Zoom and stuff was like actually decent sounding audio. Like, it was really bad before, and we would never ever use Skype audio in a podcast. I guess I've always been in the situation where I'm doing a podcast with other podcasts, or with other audio engineers, so it's a little bit different. We would always have very high standards for the quality, and like this year, like what the quality of audio they put on the news and stuff is just ridiculous. Like, just hit record on each person's computer. Even if you have your phone on the table, it's going to sound better than, if you record into your phone and you're using the computer or your laptop for the call, it's still going to be better quality than recording the output of Skype. Just, I don't know. I guess it's a little bit more work to edit it after. Don't you have any latency between the audio and the video, and how you capture the DAW audio? Okay, Rodney asks a question. I do have latency, so it's kind of hard to explain. How I figured out the latency was to play a click track in Reaper, and then hit record in OBS, and I take that file and I drop it into Reaper, and I figure out what the difference is between the output, or like what the rendered audio is versus what was sent out. And because it's a click track, it's a very steady thing. It's just, you measure the offset, and then you set up either a video delay or an audio delay. I don't know if I can actually show this. Yeah, I can. Let's go to this. Okay, so here's my advanced audio settings for Streamlabs OBS, and you can see that I've got volume control and I've got sync offsets here. And so this is, I'm delaying my microphone by 220 and Restream by 220. And your other question was, how do I get audio from the DAW? So I've got, in my monitoring effects chain, where is that? In my monitoring effects chain, I have Restream coming out. So when I play here, you can see it there. And then in OBS, just one sec. Just got to pop this out. Filters. Okay, so I've got, no, that's my mic. Wrong button. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the properties for my Restream source. Restream works best on an actual audio input. So like desktop audio, I don't think it would work. But I'm using 3 gain plugins, so I could probably replace this with one plugin, but they're just turning down by 90 dB altogether, just to make sure that there's nothing ever coming through this input. And then I have the VST2 plugin for Restream here, and that's receiving. So, yeah, it's all pretty simple, and it has worked really well. I just have my Restream output turned down by -3, but with that set up, Restream is always sending to OBS, and I don't need to put it onto each project or anything like that. And so far, no issues. George asks, I meant to ask this for a long time. Is there a way to change the grid line color or highlight the divisions a bit different so you can see more clearly where you are on the grid? Create contrast between beats and bars, basically. Yeah, it might be a little hard to see on my screen here. Am I zoomed in? Yeah, that's zoomed in. Okay, but I do have different colors for my grid lines. I have my grid set to through items. So appearance and yeah. So grid line Z order, I have through items, and marker line through items. I have dotted grid lines turned off. Dotted grid lines really kind of makes them disappear. So making sure that's on. So you have solid grid lines. That makes it a big difference. You asked about changing, like to add contrast. You can use the divide arrange view vertically every one measure, and that will do that. It basically just flips the track tinting. So you see how track 2 and 3 odd and even numbered tracks have this this alternating color. But this setting, divide arrange view, or setting to 0 for zoom dependent, will kind of do that for you. And all those colors are customizable. So I don't particularly like that. I'm very used to it not being like that. Then the other thing is in the theme adjuster. Not theme adjuster, the theme configuration window. And just type in grid. And then we've got all the different grid colors. So I pretty much have my grid lines like the same for start of measure and start of beats. And in the MIDI editor is matching the arrange view. But in my in-between beats is this color. So I'm not sure how much of that is actually coming through. It's clear on my screen, but it doesn't always come through. Yeah, this is my modded theme. Joeman7890 says, home recording show is my favorite podcast ever. It's not my favorite podcast ever. I don't think it should be yours either, but I lost the boxer on my thing. Okay. Yeah, it was a pretty good podcast. It was a lot of fun, but there's a lot of great podcasts out there. UBK Happy Fun Time Hour is great. Six Figure Home Studio Podcast, is that what it's called? Six Figure. They're about to rename it to the Six Figure Creative Podcast, I think it's called. That one's one of my favorites. Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts out these days, but I don't think a 10-year-old one like the home recording show has got to be my favorite. How to make the track bigger so the track name and all of the other buttons, solo, mute, will be larger. You can kind of do it through the theme adjuster. Let's see. It'll probably look bad here. Let's see. I can select this track and hit 150. Yeah, it's going to break. But you can do that if you really need it big. There's also 200. But yeah, at this distance, and yeah, I'm really used to having it at 100%. Right now, that's one way. If you're making a custom theme, you can just start with everything larger. And in, what is it, general, advanced, you can also set a scale setting. Can you see that? It seems very small here, but scale UI elements of track, mixer panels, transport, etc. by, and then 1.0 is the default, but you can make it up to 0.3 or down to 0.3 or up to 3x. And there's lots of other options for multi-monitor and high DPI and things like that in there. And after you change those settings, you have to restart Reaper. Did you finish your Doom-inspired track? I never really finished it. It's more of an experiment, like I just enjoy the kind of workflow. So it's about the process, not really getting I don't have a goal in mind for that. It's just like a template that I can play with and kind of enjoy the process of it, and swap out different plugins and kind of get different results. But it's a good way to get a couple different loops in that style of music, but I've never tried to finish a song with it, if you know what I mean. I think you need something like that, and then a couple different things to actually have contrast between different sections. And but I think the idea of having like a simple tone going in and then having all these effects chains changing the sound, and you can use the faders to create new sounds and textures with it. But I don't think it's a means to get a finished song. So, good question. Do you know any JS effects for analog emulations like 1073, 1176, LA2A? Yeah, there are some built in that I don't use. I'll just be honest, I don't use a lot of those. So like there's 1175, which is obviously an 1176. There's Fairly Childish compressor limiter, which is a Fairchild style compressor. There's something with a 2A, I think. I think there is an LA2A style. S-Lax is kind of an LA2A style. This is from Sonic Anomaly. I think you can still get that one. He stopped making the VST versions. Or he kind of got out of the plugin world completely last year or so. What was the other one? 1073. RPJ 73 EQ. Stillwell Audio has a whole bunch of the... Oh, I just realized you can't even see the whole screen here. Can't even see the whole plugin list. But if you search for Stillwell in the JS folder, you'll see a bunch of their plugins as Reaper versions. But Stillwell Audio, yeah, if you look up their site, if you're familiar with these, they've got the Vibe EQ, which is kind of like a Pultec style. Got the 1973, which is a 1073 style. The Rocket is kind of like a 1176. So there's lots of cool stuff in there. Major Tom is what's the over easy? DBX 160. So yeah, there's like JS UI less plugins in Reaper. But all right, back to the comments. In arrange view, my mouse is acting like control is always on, and that's not the default behavior. I don't remember what I've done to change that. The mouse is acting like the control is always on. It's possible you have an armed action. Or it's possible you've changed the mouse modifiers. So to change mouse modifiers, you go to where's it, mouse modifiers. In the import-export window, you can reset to factory defaults if you just can't find where it's changed. But you'll see anything that's changed will have a little dot beside it, a little indent. And if you go in here, you can see what the default is. So if it's drags and clicks, it's going to be in here. If it's mouse wheel, then it's in the action list. If you search for mouse wheel and search for what's assigned, then yeah, that's what you're looking for. Andrew asks, every time I try to rescan plugins and clear cache, Reaper crashes. Any idea what would cause that? So sometimes that's a bad plugin that is like just there's a bug with a plugin. Sometimes if we go into VST, sometimes there's something bad in this path. So here's what I have for mine on my PC. There's so many different plugin folders. It's kind of insane. Just make sure you don't have like the entire C drive in there or something like that. Or like, because there's DLL plugins that Reaper might think are VSTs because you've told it it's a VST plugin by putting the path in here. So just, yeah. Clear cache and rescan is something that you shouldn't need to do often. The rescan button or right-clicking in here and scan for new plugins usually works. Clear cache is like if you've really made a lot of changes to your path, and this tries to load every single plugin, and it's a little bit bad. Sometimes if it crashes and you just restart it, it's going to continue on the load, and sometimes it just takes a few tries to do it because it's loading and unloading a lot of plugins very quickly. So yeah, I would try not to use the function, but also make sure that there's nothing in there that is that shouldn't be there. Okay. Is there a way to sync views of docked Melodyne and Reaper to arrange view? I'm not sure. I kind of thought they improved that recently, but it's been a little while since I've used Melodyne. I don't know if you can like sync the zoom and scroll. That was one of the big annoyances that I always had. It's like transport control like wasn't synced. Like for me, Melodyne had much worse integration with Reaper than Retune. So most of the time, if I need tuning, I'll just stick with Retune, just because like zoom and scroll and moving the cursor position, stuff like that, just was much faster than Melodyne. And for that reason, that's why I haven't really like explored new features of Melodyne, and I just ignore all the emails that they send me to upgrade and stuff like that. Mike says you can get Sonic Anomaly plugins through Repack. Yeah, but the VST versions are not available anymore. There used to be VST versions of those as well. What's your go-to EQ these days? You still use ReEQ, or have you shifted to the other ReEQ? With which surgical EQ do you most use these days? And what's my go-to compressor? I've got a lot of EQs right now. I mean, ReEQ is still the one that I have on a shortcut, the Kakko's REEQ. I haven't used the other REEQ. I know everyone loves it, but I've got so many EQs that I've paid for that I use quite a lot. Entropy EQ is one I got recently. I think it was like a free offer. And this is like almost like like reverb adjusting. These middle bands can do some really weird stuff. I'll just put on this. Wrong track. Let's put it on here, and I'll play around with it just to show you. It's kind of a special EQ. So I'm gonna take this band. I'm gonna put it on entropy mode. So let's say I isolate that kind of clickiness. I can like pull that out. It's really weird. It's a really strange EQ. Like, it's hard to even explain. But you can do like reverb removal with an EQ, or with this EQ. You can like add punch to stuff, or like tighten up things. It's kind of like an EQ and a transient designer mixed, but in a different way than what I've seen. Surgical EQ. The T-Rax equal is pretty good. So you can have a bunch of bands. You can have mid-side and left-right mode. There's a bunch of different shapes from their other EQ plugins. There's things like the band shelf type. Band reject type. Lots of cool stuff. And I don't think it has a solo per band, but it can be linear phase as well. So I think I got that at the last T-Rax sale. I have pretty much everything from T-Rax now. And then the Ozone 9 EQ I use quite a lot. When I'm mastering, this is typically what I go for, because it's got really flexible bands, and it has solos and all that kind of stuff, and like the mouse wheel works the way that I expect and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I guess the most surgical one that I use is the Ozone 9 EQ. General track stuff, it's usually the built-in REAPER EQ. And if I'm looking for something different, or I want to like approach the mix in a less surgical way, then recently I was using the EQ73 or the EQ PB, or, well, this one not so much. It's cool, but this one definitely makes me think a lot differently, because like this slight move is like 1 dB. I don't know. It gets very extreme quickly, but it has a lot of character, and it does EQ moves that I wouldn't think to do normally. And then this, man, I hate that I put the plugin into the effects chain specifically, and then it like pops out. This one gets a lot of use as well, just kind of in buses and things like that. And I'll just do like a you know, a simple like boost and I'll sweeper here and, you know, just like subtle bus enhancement. I think I'm running a bit short on time today. I do have a call at exactly 12:30, so I can't stay much longer. I might not be able to get through all of the questions. Go to compressor though. Let's see. Well, I do like the boost from Ursa DSP. That one's pretty cool. Black 76. Oh, you can't see it. This one I use in pretty much every mix. The T-Rax bus compressor. It keeps going under my camera. Every single time I load a plugin, it goes under my camera. So annoying. Dynamu. I like that one quite a lot. I use the T-Rax stuff a lot. Okay, there's a my chat jumped and realized that there's a lot of things. Kostov says that Doom inspired video was amazing. I really enjoyed your process. Also, any new music lately? Really enjoyed your breakdown of that cyberpunk inspired track. You'd have to go back through some of the live stream archives. There's some where I was using a lot of the times I'm starting tracks with loop cloud and just like for inspiration or, you know, interesting loops and stuff like that. And I'll play a couple synths on top. But like, I don't think I started any tracks within September, maybe one. Let me just check here. There was one I was working on this month. Question from Pat, is there a way to overcome bridging problems with x86 plugins? I stopped using x86 plugins about 10 years ago. So I think it's time to move on. These plugins are taking a while to load up. There it goes. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is something that I've been working on. I don't even remember what's actually in here, but we'll play it. Do I even have effects on here? I better put a limiter on this or something just to make sure that's not killing us. I assume it's loudened a little bit, or it might be loud. Here we go. So this is a bunch of Tal Uno LX and Analog Dreams. Lots of duck. Sometimes these plugins take forever to load. Using duck instead of sidechaining. totally forgot about this. I was just working on this last week. Mike asks, what do you do for a living before you started doing audio full time? When I was in school, I was working at a grocery store, managing, or not managing, but like supervising the cashiers. And hey, wait, that's a wavetable synth. Yeah. Okay. Thorn is an exception to the rule, okay? It's just too good. So when I was in school, I worked at a grocery store after school, and sometimes I'd be there till like after midnight, getting all the cashier stuff done. Then I worked for a company called Revolution Audio, which was a small independent, what do you call it? Music store, I guess, but it was just home recording equipment. When I started there, I had access to their studio, and that led me into doing in-home lessons and stuff like that. So, and then when I moved to Vancouver, I was still working for them online, but the store was kind of like changing owners and like switching to online only and all this stuff. But so that was my transition into working completely like freelance. So I did a lot of in-home lessons, did some mixing and mastering work locally and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I moved to this house 5 years ago or something like that I started making videos, and that's kind of where things turned around. And you know, now we're here, and now I make videos and I talk to you guys, and that pays the bills, which that's incredible. It's hard to even comprehend because it's something that wasn't on my radar at all. I thought I would be working in a studio as like a mixing engineer, in-house mixing engineer, but I don't know. I tried the intern thing, but it didn't work out. I was too impatient, maybe. Okay, I gotta go because I have a call in a couple minutes, but it's been great hanging out with you guys today. What's the button? That's the button. And yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys. I want to say I'll see you tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure I gotta go. I have to visit the apartment. So unfortunately, that might be the end of live streams this week. But yeah, again, thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be back to normal soon. All right. Bye, guys.